Just Energy with naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theories that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swing of a pendulum to the waves in the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. In the same way, things such as rocks and minerals vibrate very slowly and at speeds that are imperceptible to us. Living things such as plants, animals, and man vibrate faster and appear to be alive. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is if we take everything in our own universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita as she explores questions such as, what are we made of? Why do we get sick? How can I live a more balanced and whole life? Call in and talk to her and her thought-provoking guests. Send us your questions and get the help you need to move beyond any obstacles or challenges that may be affecting your life, right from the source. So stay tuned and explore your possibilities.
Hello, and welcome to Just Energy Radio. Thank you all for tuning in today. My name is Dr. Rita Louise, and well, you know, I just am not actually sure what's going to be happening today, but something's going to be happening, and you're going to get to be part of it. So this week we were supposed to have Barbara Hand Clow on talking about the seventh underworld, the Galactic Underworld, which we are in or going into, not really sure, which is why we were going to have her on the show, but she was supposed to call in, and no call. So we're just going to keep moving forward. Hopefully she'll call in, and she can just pick up in the conversation. In the second hour, we're going to be talking to Chikan Parkin about human design, and it's a pretty interesting tool and technique that pretty much anybody can learn. I have a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do. In 2 weeks, Just Energy Radio is going to be opening up the phone lines, and at this point in time, we might be opening up the phone lines too, but we are definitely opening up the phone lines in 2 weeks, and I will be taking your calls, your questions, your comments. The topic of the show is what's normal about the paranormal. You can call and join our conversation. It'll be Wayne and myself, my good friend, and we're going to be talking about all things paranormal. We are even going to open up the phone lines for people to get readings. And that's my way of saying thank you to all of you who are my listeners. So this is what I think that we're going to do, because I have been just so interested in the 2012 phenomena that I thought we could spend some time talking about 2012. And so that's going to be our topic today. The phone lines are going to be open. I am going to take questions that are posted in the chat room, and we'll kind of talk about my thoughts, beliefs, and feelings about what's going on with 2012, and we will go from there. So there are a lot of people who believe that, I'm not even going to start there. When you watch TV, or there was that movie, 2012, what they tend to put out there is just a bunch of stuff. There's Barbara. There's Barbara. See, I didn't even have to go into this whole big thing. We're just going to, move along, get Barbara on the air. Let me get her bio back up on my screen so I can introduce her. Here's Barbara's info. Barbara Hand Clow has been teaching the critical importance of time acceleration and the Mayan Calendar since May 2005. Drawing on the breakthrough work of Swedish biologist Carl Johan Calleman, author of Mayan Calendar, Transformation of Consciousness, Barbara explains the significance of the Nine Underworlds, all of which conclude in October of 2011. We are living in the Galactic Underworld, with the Universal Underworld still to come in 2011. During each underworld, time speeds 20 times faster than the preceding one. This explains the sudden shifts in evolution going back to the creation of the universe. Barbara makes Calleman's material easy to understand so that its life-changing significance is clear to all of those who listen and learn. So please welcome from Hand Clow 2012, Barbara Hand Clow. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Rita Louise. How are you?
Well, I was just a bit nervous there because, we went live, and I'm going, okay, Barbara. I hope you figured out about the time change thing.
Yeah, I called in right at 12 noon.
Okay.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm very good, and as a matter of fact, I'm extremely excited right now because, as you know, Day 7, we went into Day 7 of the Galactic Underworld on November 3rd, and then we had global celebrations on November 5th because November 5th was the new moon in Scorpio. So we all decided that the time to inaugurate that new energy force was November 5th. And, of course, what we're looking for is palpable evidence that Calleman is right about the kind of changes that are happening. And it turns out that what's been happening during the last week, in other words, we've been into Day 7 of the Galactic Underworld for about a week now, and we are seeing significant evidence in the galaxy, in the solar system, on our planet, at the political level, at the personal level. I've never really seen a period in time which shows evidence for consciousness change on this level, except during harmonic convergence in August 1987. We also could see major changes on many, many levels at that time. So I'm really excited.
And I want to get into that in more detail, definitely, because that's really what this show is about, is to talk about this new energy. But I think there are people that, you mentioned the global underworld and the new and they're going, huh? What does that have to do with 2012? And maybe you could just do a quick primer on, the different cycles, and where we are in that process of change.
Yeah. Well, most of us understand that we're at the very end of the Mayan calendar now. And the only kind of controversy that's going on right now is that a large group of people think that the calendar is ending December 21st, 2012, and then there's another whole group of people who are working with October 2011. And I'm working with October 2011, but I don't see a conflict between the two dates because for me, 2011 is the maximum time acceleration period, and then we go into a new field in 2012. So I just don't have a problem with the argument around these dates. But what I am extremely interested in is that we need to really be watching whether Calleman is right or not, because the implication of what Calleman is saying is that we are now moving into a period of becoming intentional, conscious co-creators with the universe. And if that's true, then we really need to be alert right now to do that process ourselves. For example, we had global celebrations on November 5th because we all concluded that, how could we figure anything was going to happen if we didn't do something, if you know what I mean? So the global ceremonies were all dedicated to the harmony, to achieve harmony between men and women, to end the stress and difficulty between male and female energies on our planet. And we think that those ceremonial works actually have shifted a lot of energy. So then we watch to see, well, what's actually happening out there on a whole lot of levels. And the reason I'm just so excited right now is that I didn't really think we'd have graphic evidence on so many levels so quickly that something meaningful is going on. And Rita, this is extremely important because we're in the middle of a really weird kind of 4-month period right now. We just entered Day 7 of the Galactic Underworld, which started in 1999. And the Galactic Underworld has to do with the development of technology on the planet, which is moving us into oneness as a species. And so Day 7 represents the fruition of that technological development, which has been so intense for us since 1999. But then, as you said a moment ago, the last time acceleration begins in March of 2011, the Universal Underworld. And so we're in this kind of weird period right now. We're in the fruition of the eighth underworld, the Galactic Underworld, but we only have 4 months before this next time acceleration occurs. So that's why this period of time is so critical.
There was somebody that made the comment, I gave a presentation on 2012 last Saturday, and somebody made the comment during my presentation about, and actually I got to plug this show today, about us moving into the new underworld on November 3rd, and they go, yeah, and that was just evident by the elections.
Yeah, the elections.
I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, the elections had some interesting information in them, but as it turns out, the elections are just paling in comparison to some of the other things that are going on. And so whenever you're ready, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of news, but I think we need to make sure that we understand the concept, if you know what I mean, really well before we get into the news. And the idea would be, and this is a developing idea. In other words, Calleman was able to come up with a date system, and he was able to come up with the different processes that are in the calendar. But in order to understand what they actually mean, this has been a work in progress. And we can see really clearly now that entering into day 7 does involve conscious co-creation. And so with the universe itself. And so, of course, we took on the central issue, which is male-female tension, and alienation is the cause of great pain on the planet. It's the cause of war. It's the cause of abuse. And so we kind of went after the sort of central healing that all of us as individuals could look at accomplishing. And the idea would be that by achieving the male-female harmony, energetic balance, that then a whole lot of things that are out of whack could shift to another level. And it's that shift that it fascinates me so much, because it does seem to be a real thing.
And what we're talking about is moving out of the I mentality into the we mentality, whether it's male, female, male, groups of people, correct?
Right, yes. And then also we're looking at, one of the images I was using for the ceremonies was to start understanding that we're really like a flock of birds or a school of fish. We're not swimming along alone anymore or flying along alone anymore at this point. We've got to start getting used to the fact that we're operating in concert. And this is a difficult energy for all of us to adopt, because we're so used to just going along with the individual I and it's operating from the ego. But whether we like it or not, or whether we think we can avoid it or not, we are now moving in a flow as a group, and that's the reason these changes are starting to come forward.
Okay, so we were in the 7th. Okay, so let's start here. So there are 9 different underworlds, and we currently are in the 7th and just have moved into the 8th. We are still in the 7th. What's going on with that?
Okay, first of all, we're in 8 underworlds, because all of the underworlds culminate in 2011. So the first underworld is 16.4 billion years until 2011, and then the next one's 800 million years. And I've already gone through all that information on your show before, and it's also at this point in my book and in Carl's book. So where we are right now is the 8th underworld, the Galactic Underworld, started in 1999. The 7th underworld, the one before the one that started in 1999, started in 1755. And that's the evolution of industrial and global systems on the planet. And then the one before that is 5,000 years ago, and it's the development of civilization and kings and priests kind of consciousness. So the Galactic Underworld, now that we have been, we've come to a stage of development with the 5,000-year history of civilization and the 250-year development of industry. Then what happened in 1999, right in early January, the 8th time acceleration occurred. And if listeners will tune back to 1999, everybody literally can remember how suddenly things just seemed to be crazy. You remember Y2K and how everybody's computers were going to fail and all that jazz? Y2K was just kind of a conspiracy, in a sense, to get people to wake up and realize that they are addicted to their computers. At this point, and by the way, I'm very non-techie, okay? But no matter how non-techie I am, there is no way that anybody can cope with anything on this planet at this point without having computers be part of that, just the banking, and financial systems. So in 1999, all of a sudden things got crazy because this technological energy went into gear. And the idea would be that as of November 3rd, as of this Scorpio new moon, we're now entering into the fruition of technology. And to me, it's pretty easy to name. Are you there?
I was having a little light bulb moment as you were talking.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure you're on the air because I heard kind of a funny sound. So the fruition of technology, assuming that evolution is moving on a positive path, which I believe it is, the fruition would be for all of us to move into oneness. In other words, the good thing about technology and computerization is for us to flow as a species and not to be isolated as individuals. Do you see how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the idea would be that
yes.
That shift occurred just during the last week, and that's such a huge shift that we should really see evidence for this on all levels, which fortunately I can find it everywhere at this point.
This is a question. I'm making a little detour here for a second. So we're still in the 8th underworld because we still have one more to go, correct?
Yeah, the 8th,
and
all
we're
of the
kind of in the middle half.
Yeah, they all culminate October 28th, 2011. In other words,
right.
all 9 of them, way back to 16.4 billion years ago. In other words, all those evolutionary levels are all still culminating in about another year, which in itself is just the most. This, is, by the way, is the craziest idea that any human being has ever come up with on this planet, as far as I'm concerned. And yet the Mayan calendar does support this idea, and reliefs have been found that give evidence that the Mayans understood that all of this was culminating at the end of 2011.
But we have just gone from the night of the 8th underworld into the day, so we went from like the little seed and have just started sprouting roots. Would that be a correct analogy?
Well, when you go through these underworlds, they all have 7 days of development. And so the first day of the development back in 1999 would be the seeding. And then it goes through different changes, germination, sprouting, proliferation, building, and flowering. And then in the seventh day, which is what we just went into in early November, we have the fruition. So the idea would be that we are moving into this fruition of all the technological development that has been going on since 1999. This is pretty mind-boggling when you start to think of people's BlackBerries and iPods and computers and Facebooks and all the stuff that's going on. The idea that we are moving into this period of connection and flow at that level together is a really profound idea.
Well, especially with the technology that we have today, having that seeing that take another big leap forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's exciting on one level, but
yeah.
then, my little conspiracy theory mind kind of jumps in the middle of it and goes, yeah, but what would the government
do for? Yeah. Calleman's research is very interesting because it's definitely based on the idea that we are headed for a meaningful outcome. So another thing that this fruition phase would suggest to me is, I don't know about you, but the thing that worries me the most is that the computers would crash and the whole financial system would crash. Now, in my case, I will be happy to see the military crash, okay? I spend a lot of time putting a lot of energy into the ending of a lot of systems that I consider to be very evil, but the monetary system and the need for people to have a financial reality is not an evil thing. And if everything did collapse, it would be extremely traumatic for the people on this planet. And so this idea of Day 7 would suggest that the monetary system and the computerized aspects of our lives at that level are not going to crash. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a rather positive idea. Even though I know all about the global elite, as you well know, and there's a whole lot of things that I'd like to see change here, I think a total collapse would be an outcome that I would not favor at all.
I have to tell you, Barbara, last week when the show started, the music came up, I started talking, and my neighborhood, not just me, my neighborhood had a little blackout. They're doing some construction down the street, and they must have hit a power line. And I was like,
you were panicked,
I'm like, well,
right?
I guess I won't do a show because I have no computer, I have no phone, I have no internet. And I'm like, hey, I can lay on the sofa and watch TV and just, like, be lazy.
Yeah.
Except I had no TV, and I had no cable. And I was like,
yeah, that gives you a little taste of it, you know. So can we talk about some of the things that have been happening in the last few instances? Okay. Well, first of all, at the galactic level, something really profound is happening in the galactic center. And this was just announced by astrophysicists 2 days ago. And nobody knows what this means yet. And most importantly, when astrophysicists discover something, one of the things we always have to be careful about is they may be finding something that was always there, or they may be discovering something that just started. You see what I mean? Like when they turned Hubble on, all of a sudden they turned on the Hubble telescope, and all of a sudden the sky was filled with asteroids and comets and all this stuff. And at first they thought that new phenomenon was happening, and then gradually they realized this stuff has always been there. We just couldn't see it before. You see what I mean? Well, the changes in the galactic center would appear to be something very, very new that has not been seen before. And the reason that I think that's true is because I follow galactic center astrophysics very carefully, and I keep track of, like, what's going on. And what they're suddenly seeing, as far as I know, just wasn't there before. And what they're suddenly seeing is these gigantic bubbles. Now, if you look at the galaxy in like a fried egg, and the center of the galaxy is the yolk in the egg, then if you look at it from the side, and you run a line through the center of it, you get a vertical axis. Does that make sense? In other words, you look at something from the side, draw a perpendicular line, and you get a vertical axis. And so suddenly... Where
they believed, like, the black hole would be.
Yeah, and then back in 2002, astrophysicists discovered that there is a black hole in the center of the galaxy. And they also discovered a lot of things about the structure in the very center of the galaxy in terms of the kind of elements that are there. And I published all of that information in Alchemy of Nine Dimensions in 2004. And so at that time, from everything that we knew, I had my artist draw the galaxy from the side with a line going through it to show that there's a line of energy through the center of it. Well, what the astrophysicists are showing as of this Tuesday is these gigantic bubbles of energy that are, as far as they can tell, gamma ray particles. And these bubbles are, if you look at them from the top and the bottom, they're basically as big as the galaxy itself. In other words, let's see if I can get some data here. And by the way, these are very distinct with very clear edges. Like, there's nothing fuzzy about this at all. I'm just trying to get a sense of the size of this. I've got some papers in front of me, but I can't find it right off the bat. But they're hundreds of millions of light years in terms of circumference and stuff like that. They're huge. And so this actually, nobody at this point knows what this is or what this could mean. But I think we can say one thing for sure. It shows that there's some kind of significant change in the center of the galaxy. And if Calleman is right, and if the Mayan calendar is accurate, this is the kind of changes that we should be seeing. So, like, right now, we're just looking at this and going, oh, wow, what's that? That's where we're at with this one right now. So that's the galaxy, okay? Then
can I ask a follow-up question on that real quick?
Oh, yeah, please.
How are they seeing these bubbles? I mean, is it based on radio waves? Is it based on telescope observation?
Yeah, this is coming from...
because it just makes me wonder, are they looking at some different frequency, like how we don't have chakras, even though we all know we have chakras kind of thing, and they just said, oh, look, there's an energy there.
I'll read it to you. NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope. So first of all, they're seeing this with a telescope that can see gamma rays. And I don't have the information yet on when they turned that one on. That's a fairly new one. Said Tuesday they discovered two bubbles of energy erupting from the center of the Milky Way galaxy. The bubbles extend, here's our data, 25,000 light years up and down from each side of the galaxy. So the galaxy itself is about 100,000 light years in circumference, and then these things are like 25,000 each, so it's 50,000, so it's like half as big as the size of the galaxy. And they contain the energy equivalent to 100,000 supernova explosions. This is what I'm getting at.
Good or a bad thing?
I know. This is what I'm getting at, Rita. There's stuff going on that just is absolutely mind-boggling. And in my universe, which, as you know, is a universe where I explore consciousness, this would be evidence to me that the center of our galaxy is moving from being a black hole to a white hole. Now, I published that in Alchemy, that I thought that's what was going to be happening at the end of the calendar. And the white hole would represent the birth of a new universe. So the idea here would be that as we come to the end of these time accelerations and as we complete this process of evolution, what's happening is a whole new universe is emerging. And I have the ability to hold that in my mind because I can feel that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the solar system. Jupiter is the planet that, according to occult tradition, Jupiter is the home of the masters. And so we watch Jupiter very, very closely in order to understand kind of guidance at a mastery level in our solar system. That's just what we do. And Jupiter has bands of colored energy above and below its equator. And in May of this year, the band of energy on Jupiter, the southern band below the equator of Jupiter, disappeared. And nobody could figure it out. And suddenly, as soon as we went into day 7, the band is reappearing. And it's reappearing by an emission of tremendously powerful energy. So this is just coming in now, and they're watching it, and nobody knows what is going on with this one. Then, in order to help our listeners get a little bit grounded, I think going to the political level is what people understand the most easily. And, of course, you mentioned the American elections, which I thought those elections showed signs of consciousness growth. I don't always agree with this politician or that politician, but I saw a lot of signs that people were doing a lot of pretty good thinking. And it sounds like you're in sync with this.
Well, you know, it's not necessarily thinking about the people that they voted in or out, but thinking about, hey, this is what's going on around me, and I don't like it, and if I'm going to change it, I have to do something. And this is the thing that I can do.
Yeah, I agree. Well, listen to what went on in Germany while the Americans had their elections. Have you heard about the nuclear protests in Germany? Okay.
No.
This now politics. I like politics because we can say yes. Now here we can see, if you know what I mean. And what happened on November 8th was nuclear nuclear waste protesters have been against a train that's supposed to take the nuclear waste from France and dump it in Germany, in Saxony. The name of this train is called the Castor train. And the protesters call it Chernobyl on wheels. And you may have, I heard some stuff about this last weekend. And I was in Europe, too, so I heard more than you did because I've been in Europe until about 6 days ago. But the Chernobyl on wheels, the Castor train, was supposed to take 133 tons of radioactive waste into Saxony from France. And so nuclear protesters marched from all over around this area of Saxony, even people from other countries besides Germany. And they walked into the woods around the nuclear storage faculty where the train tracks are. And they went into the train tracks and they lay on the train tracks. That was this weekend. And then, this is the amazing thing, 17,000 police, 17,000, organized by NATO, and these were police coming from France, Germany, Croatia, and Poland, came in to take the protesters off the tracks and remove them. They came in with helicopters, water cannons, armored surveillance trucks, and all that stuff. And guess what happened? The police lost. They couldn't rout the protesters, and at this point, that nuclear train is sitting on the tracks, stopped dead, and it's surrounded by barbed wire put in there by NATO, and it has searchlights on it. And the police are battling with their superiors because while their superiors are sitting in the office sending out all the orders, the actual police people, the 17,000 police people, are refusing to do it anymore. Now, this is huge.
That is huge.
It's huge.
I mean, but there's a lot of different implications with that. I mean, 17,000 police, that's a ton of police. I mean, that's kind of saying there were millions of people there.
Yeah, there weren't millions
of people. That's the thing in Germany.
Yeah, I never did I haven't gotten, by the way, there's a total news blackout on this as of the 8th. So I can't get more news after that. Not surprised, right. So I've not ever been able to get any information on how many protesters there are, and that's pretty common because often they lie about that anyway. But we do know that there were 17,000 police people, which gives you a sense. And see, this is such a huge event that operates on so many levels in terms of nuclear issues, in terms of political issues, in terms of NATO ganging up. In other words, as we know, the war in Afghanistan it's not an American war. What do they call it? They have a word for it. I forget at this point. But, you know, the Americans don't do it. The alliance or what do you call it? The co-alliance or something like that?
Coalition?
Yeah, whatever they call the effort in Afghanistan, it's not the American war. The coalition? I don't know what they call it.
Yes, I think it's the coalition.
Yeah.
Barbara, we need to take a quick break, but let's come back and talk about politics because it's always interesting what they're up to. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking to Barbara Hand Clow. Her website is Hand Clow 2012. She's got a bunch of books, talks a lot about 2012, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.